Hello friends and welcome back to the channel for another quick champion guide, and today we are taking a look at Onslaught. Now Onslaught is arguably the best mutant in the game right now. He has a ton of damage available on offense, and on top of that he's a very tricky defender, making him one of the most potent two-way champs in the game right now. So offensively speaking, a lot of his damage comes from sources that no one in the game is currently immune to, which makes him useful in almost any situation. Alright, let's start off with the question that I'm sure is foremost on your mind, and that is, does Onslaught need to be awakened? And I think from a pure damage standpoint, the answer here is going to be yes. And not only that, I also think you're going to want him at high or ideally max sig. So if we take a look at the signature ability here, you are going to get some immediate value at Sig 1, where you'll gain the ability to block unblockable special attacks from skill champs. So this is going to make things like Nick Fury Special 1, or in some cases Kingpin Special 2, a lot safer for you. From an offensive perspective, the second clause here is really why you want him duped and why you want to be investing your Sig Stones into him. It says that Daunted potency is increased by up to 33%. My Onslaught is max Sig, so 33% is the cap. Now, Daunted is still a relatively new effect in the game. What it does is it increases all damage dealt during a special attack animation, including dot effects and including damage from external sources like a quest node, for example. So a lot of Onslaught's damage output comes from Neuroshock and degen effects, and the potency of these effects will actually increase during his special attacks when you have Daunted debuffs on the defender. So if the potency of your Daunted effects are higher via the Sig, then his overall damage output is going to be much higher as well. The third clause here is purely for defense, says that for each non-damaging debuff or passive on the opponent, you get increased block penetration. And again, unless you're going to be routinely firing specials into your opponent's block, this really isn't going to do you much good as an attacker. Alright, let's jump right into some gameplay. So we already talked about the Daunted debuffs a bit, but you inflict one whenever you parry, and they stack up to a maximum of 10. So at the start of the fight here, I'm just doing some shortened combos just to build a few of them up. You can also parry special attacks if you want to get to 10 faster, but most of the time you'll get there naturally. The next thing you want to know about Onslaught are his Neuroshock passives. So you have a 15% chance on all basic attacks to apply a Neuroshock passive, and they aren't doing a ton of damage, as you can kind of see here. So think of the Neuroshocks as similar to Shuri's shock debuffs, in that they will do some damage, but their primary purpose is for you to cash them in later to get a better effect. And in Onslaught's case, you're going to be converting these into degen passives later on. Now from here, you want to build up to somewhere between a bar and 2 bars of power and use your Special 1. Special 1 is going to inflict additional Neuroshock passives up to 8. The more of those you have, the more you can cash in later for the big damage. You may notice that I'm heavy canceling into the Special 1, so let's talk about Onslaught's heavy attack. Using a heavy attack will pause all personal dot effects on the defender for 1.5 seconds, and if that sounds like barely any time at all, well, you're right. However, if you use the heavy attack while the opponent is not stunned, you'll instead get an extended pause for 10 seconds, and you'll inflict a Daunted debuff as well. Okay, so I want to pause for a second here and call out something in Onslaught's ability text, because the wording here is very specific. Notice how it says stun debuff here under the heavy attack section and not stun effect. This means that you can safely heavy during any passive stun, and you're still going to get the increased pause duration. Now, Onslaught does activate a passive stun if his parry stun is shrugged off. This is an ability that is becoming pretty common in Mutant champs. However, it also means that if you have a white Magneto on your team, you can easily gain the increased pause in any matchup if you use his guidance pre-fight. So just something for you to keep in mind there. So similar to Chilth, you want to be heavy countering special attacks wherever and whenever you can, in addition to countering the defender's heavy attacks with your heavy spamming in the corner, and using your heavy after a striker. Doing all of these things are going to keep those dot effects paused for as long as possible, and keeping them paused is critical to getting the most damage out of Onslaught. And again, similar to Chilth, the range on Onslaught's heavy is very, very good, and there will be lots of times when you think you'll be too far away for heavy to connect, only for it to work anyway. Once you have at least 20 Neuroshocks applied, build to your Special 2, and again heavy cancel into it. The Special 2 is going to convert up to 20 Neuroshocks into degen passives, which deal a lot more damage than the Neuroshocks. And remember, the potency of your degen is going to be increased even more during your special attacks if you have a bunch of Daunted debuffs applied. So right here you can see I have the maximum of 10 Daunteds along with all 20 degens, and we're doing around 24,000 damage per second. By the way, this is an unascended rank 5. So the trade-off with the degens is that they only last for 6 seconds, which is why heavy canceling into the special attack is so important. It ensures that they start paused and gives you 10 seconds to pause them again before they start to expire. Now in most matchups your opponent is probably dead, but if not, your goal is then to keep the degens paused with your heavy attacks, all the while building up additional Neuroshocks with your basics and your special 1. The degens max out at 20, but there is no limit to the Neuroshocks, so you can just spam your special 1 at this point, just keep adding more. So there we go, that was about 200k health or so gone in under a minute, which isn't lightning fast, but with so much of his damage coming from damage over time, it scales really well as the health pools increase. Alright, now I want to walk you through a fight in real time. This is a different Drax, also from the CCP beta server, and this one has about 700,000 health, so a little bit beefier than the last one. Keep that in mind. At the start of the fight, I've done a few shortened combos just to get my Daunted debuffs going, and every time he throws a special, I'm going to counter it with a heavy attack, and if I have a special attack available, I'm going to go ahead and heavy cancel into that special. So we have 10 Neuroshocks up now, baiting out either the special 1 or the special 2, and here's my second special 1. This is going to take me exactly to 20 Neuroshocks, so at this point, I can continue to keep everything paused and start building up to my special 2. One thing I forgot to mention earlier about the pause is that they do not stack. So if you accidentally use a heavy attack while the opponent is stunned, it will replace the extended pause with one of the short ones. So you really have to be aware of what you're doing with these heavy attacks. So from here, I think I'm going to bait out a heavy and then counter with my own heavy, cancel into the special 2, and now we've got all 20 of our degens applied, and from here the goal is just to keep them paused for as long as possible. And to that effect, every time, again, Drax uses a special attack, we're going to be countering it with a heavy attack. If we are close enough to him in the corner, we can continuously heavy spam also, just to apply multiple extended pauses right in a row. There's 2 right in a row there. And then from here, again, we're going to special intercept here, just adding more and more Neuroshocks. You can see the damage is skyrocketing during those special attacks. Another couple of heavy attacks in the corner, and he is just about dead. Using the striker here to get another extended pause, heavy cancel into one more special 1, and down he goes. So that was, again, a 700,000 health fight, and that was done in about 90 seconds or so, I think. Minute 37, yeah. So you can see how the damage scales really well as the health pools increase. Alright, quickly let's review the damage rotation. So anytime you perform a well-timed block, including a parry, you're going to be inflicting a Daunted debuff on the defender. These stack up to 10, and the Daunted debuffs are going to increase the total damage that your opponent takes during your special attacks, including from your damage over time. And again, if you have your Onslaught duped or high sig, the potency of those Daunted debuffs are going to be increased as well. So from here, build up to between a bar and 2 bars of power, and then you want to use your special 1 to apply the Neuroshock passives. Very, very important here to heavy cancel into all of your special attacks. Using the heavy is going to pause all of your damage over time effects, and you can get the extended pause by triggering a pause without a stun debuff active, and that's going to give you 10 seconds to work with rather than only a second and a half. From here, once you have at least 20 Neuroshocks, you can then build up to your special 2, heavy cancel into that. That's going to convert up to 20 Neuroshocks into degen passives. They are much more potent. And then from here, you can use your heavy to keep all of the dot effects paused, punish specials with a heavy attack, punish heavies with a heavy attack, or you can use a heavy attack after a striker. That'll also give you the extended pause. Then from here, if you are sitting at 20 degens, spam your special 1. That's going to apply additional Neuroshocks. Those do not have a limit, and then just keep everything paused until the opponent is dead. Alright, I want to show you one more fight here. This is a Kingpin with about 500,000 health, and I wanted to simulate here what a fight would look like if you had the White Mags pre-fight available. So Kingpin is going to shrug off almost all of my parry stuns in this fight, which gives us the passive stun. And what this means for Onslaught is that if you are really struggling with heavy canceling after specials or heavy attacks, you can use that White Mags pre-fight in order to safely parry and heavy, and that's going to give you the extended pause here. So you can see me, I'm still heavy canceling, his special 1 because the spacing on it is pretty easy to manage, but I'm also not really worrying about only heavy canceling, or heavy countering rather, the special 1, and I'm able to safely parry him and getting the extended pause that way. So other than that, the fight pretty much looks the same here. I'm almost at my 20 neuroshocks. This special 1 is going to take me well over 20, so now I'm at almost 30, and from here I can continue to keep everything paused while I build up to my special 2 and get those degens applied here. So he is shrugging off the Daunted debuffs, as you can see. One of the great things about Onslaught is that if the defender shrugs off any of these debuffs, they are reapplied as passive. So that's why you're seeing 10 passive Daunteds there, because Kingpin has shrugged all the other ones off here. So we are at our special 2 here, heavy canceling into it, getting those 20 degens converted. And from here, the fight is pretty much over. I can safely parry it again, and heavy to get the extended stun, and he drops. So that was about 90 seconds or so, just giving you an example of how a fight with Onslaught could be made easier with that passive stun. That's going to do it for this guide, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Onslaught, one of the most powerful mutants in the game right now, if not the most powerful. And although it may take you some time to really get comfortable with him, practice those heavy counters and you're going to be melting defenders in no time. If you made it this far into the guide, please leave me a comment below that says, I survived the Onslaught. And if you found this guide helpful, you can help me right back by pressing that like button. And please also consider subscribing below. As always, thank you very much for watching. See you again next time.